This is a secret. Today, we are going to be pollinating some Venus Flytrap flowers to make some seeds. Yeah, what's up? Venus Flytrap flowers actually exist. Venus Flytraps flower. Okay, so why do Venus Flytraps flower? They flower to make seeds. Seeds for you guys to grow and for us to grow. So just like any other kind of breeding scheme, if you got a Venus flytrap that's small and green and you cross it with a Venus flytrap that's red and giant, you're going to get a bunch of progeny in between those two things. So you're going to get a little red one or a giant green one or all in between. And that's the fun of growing from seed with Venus flytraps, is all the different possibilities that you can get when you cross two different plants. So a lot of people are told to cut the flower stalks on their Venus flytrap, and that's to make sure that the plant grows vigorously. But if you already have a happy, healthy, vigorous growing Venus flytrap, you can let it go to flower and set seed, and that's perfectly fine for that plant. So Venus flytrap flowers have both male and female parts on the same flower. They're called perfect in botanical terms. So when they first open up, they have their stamens, which are the filament and the anther here, all standing up, and that is bearing pollen that is viable and ready to pollinate a flower. In the later stage, the stamens fall down to the petals, fall away, and the pollen is no longer viable. But what you have is a receptive female part of the plant here, the feathery-like stigma. And that's where you want to put the viable pollen. And they do this in stages to prevent self-pollination. So they prefer to have the pollen from another plant pollinate the stigma of the initial plant. So what I like to do is I like to take a pair of tweezers and remove some viable pollen-bearing stamens off of a flower, and then use those stamens to brush the pollen on a receptive stigma from another plant. We go back and forth and we coat that receptive stigma in viable pollen like that. And that way you have good pollination. So an alternative way of pollinating your Venus flytrap is to take a bottle cleaner or a paintbrush and dust that around receptive stamens and anthers and get the pollen, which you can see on this brush cleaner, on. And then you do the same thing. You apply that brush cleaner with the pollen on it to the receptive stigma. The only downside to this is that you need to use a different part of the brush cleaner every time for every different cross, because you can easily get different pollens all contaminated in a mixture right there, and so you're not sure which plant you're crossing with which. A few days after pollination, some signs that you've had success are that the ovary starts to inflate and get bigger, and you can see, especially this one, you can see the sepals kind of clasping around that ovary, and there are going to be seeds developing in that ovary right now, and it's inflating, getting bigger. So those are all a good sign right there. A few weeks after your pollination has been completed, a great sign is those little black spider eyes staring up at you, and those are ripe Venus flytrap seeds ready to be harvested. So this is a Carnivorous Plant Store special tip. This is a secret technique that we've developed. So when you're making specific crosses, it can be hard to label which pollen went on which flower with Venus flytrap flowers. So a former employee and good friend, Genevieve Lalonde Martini, came up with this amazing technique where we designate a string to a plant, to a specific clone. So in this case, we've crossed Venus flytrap alien pollen onto a Venus flytrap bloody nurse clone. And this red string represents the alien pollen, so that we know when we harvest this flower, which is on the bloody nurse plant, that these are the seeds that were crossed with alien pollen onto the bloody nurse plant.
Get wheezed.
Have like intestinal problems.
Ooh.
But why are you so gassy?
R.I.P. that fly. Venus flytraps really need to shave.
Thanks for watching. Bye!